What was your I came looking for copper but found gold moment? College. I forgot my laptop at home and I needed a computer to download and print the syllabus. So I went to the library, but it was the first week so all the computer were taken. So I went to borrow the library laptop. Met her and every day I left my laptop at home on purpose. Got a number and that's when I came looking for copper. Laptop, but found gold. Been married 7 years with 1 daughter. Tried online dating one last time after a couple bad experiences back in 2011. Ended up matching with a guy in Alaska. Dated long distance for 2 years until I get fed up and moved. So in 2014 I moved to the Alaskan bush. In 2016 we got married. He's my best friend. Randomly jumped on Bumble during an infrequent use stage with the app. Matched with this guy, went on a date and I'm currently in early stages of labor with our first child, but very much in love. Not entirely sure what I did to deserve him. That story brought a smile to my face. Hope your labor goes quickly and without a hitch. Congratulations on the little one. Road trip from Montreal to Vermont Burlington with some friends, listening to music. I called out randomly that the next song on the iPod Shuffle, out of 7,800 songs, would be the song Old Man, and it fucking was. Random guess. So my friends and I went to buy $50 of lottery tickets. We won some other money so we bought more tickets than the last one was a $500 win. We reimbursed the whole road trip because of that and more random crap, and it was the most epic moment of my life. In high school I was an introverted nerd and decided to make a rap for my devotions. Considering the theme really narrowed the amount of content I could put in the rap. It was for religion. I thought I would just say frick it, get on with it, and get no applause because I thought it sounded like crap. On top of that, I wasn't a guy to step so far out of my safe zone, and I thought I was going to mess up the rap somehow and go off beat. I was rapping to a YouTube rap instrumental. So if I messed up, the beat would have gone on without me and make me look stupid. At the end of the day, I slapped the frick out of that rap and got a huge butt standing ovation with screams. My reputation never went up so high in one day. MMHMM, yes, that makes me warm and fuzzy inside. I'm happy it went so good for you. Right out of high school, I went into a random building while job searching 7 years ago, hoping to get anything at that point. It was like 2 weeks into non-stop application after application, so I was just kinda like, yo, gimme job, I'll do anything PLLLLLZ. They asked me if I had any management experience and I told them that I was just out of high school and had no job experience at all. The owner of the company walked by and said, would you like experience? I was offered a salaried position. $61k a year, benefits the whole 9. So long as I came in every morning at 6 AM to shadow the owner. He said if I'm even 1 minute late a single day or call out I'm fired. I agreed. 7 years later and I'm still in the same position. I was setting up the area to the strip mine to put a water elevator in my Minecraft world and I ended up finding diamonds while making it. You were looking for iron and found diamonds. Castlevania animated series on Netflix. Was expecting enjoyably bad cheesy crap a la Captain N and the Game Master from the 80s. Surprisingly it was quite good. I freaking loved that show. My first year teaching at a high school, I was in a new city without any friends. I was taking a martial art at a local rec center and talked about it during one of my senior classes. A student expressed interest and I suggested he take a class. That evening he showed up. We bonded after that. After he graduated we hung out more and I helped guide him through some college decisions. Fast forward to today and we've been friends for almost a decade and he's going to be the best man at my wedding. He'd confided in me that I ended up being something of a father figure for him coming out of high school since he lost his dad young. I visited my big sister for New Year's when I was at my lowest and didn't think I wanted to live anymore, so I wanted to be with family trying to find something to keep me going. One of her friends had a wife there, left him for someone else she had been dating for months, and she had been sleeping with a large number of men the 4 years they was together. He was there too. My sister didn't want him to be lonely. Now I live with him, having a baby girl in November, and have never been happier. Been together since that New Year. Sometime last year, I was working as a drawer at a hotel restaurant and helped out this one couple a few times. On their last day, the hotel and restaurant were pretty dead, but they wanted to come one more time. They happened to get one server who wasn't attentive that day and they were constantly waiting for refills and little things. I helped them where I could by getting them drinks, condiments, and things they'd ask for. It was my job, so I just did it because I needed to. The husband asked me after a while to stick out my hand, which I did. He put a $100 bill in my hand, folded it, and said it was a thank you for helping them. I was absolutely stunned and thanked them so much for it. I hope they both left happy. They were a very sweet couple. The memory was always a reminder that you never know what you'll get from helping someone. Met this girl in Tinder. She had come to my country to get away from life for a few days on a random vacation. I was supposed to go on a date that night with another girl, but she backed out last minute. I asked Tinder girl out to dinner with zero expectations since she wasn't from where I lived. We had barely talked. I just didn't want to have dinner by myself and I already had a reservation. Long story short, we had the best date of our lives. Spent that night together and I asked her not to leave. We've been living together ever since and are getting married next year. TLDR. Asked random girl to dinner. Getting married next year. I went to a brewery with some friends. Ended up meeting my future husband. We got married this year about 72 hours before quarantine started. I used to buy sell trade BMW E30s. I got a lead on a non-runner for $500. I get there and start my normal inspection. At one point that car was obviously someone's baby. It was loaded with very rare parts and top shelf aftermarket parts. It had a huge hole in the block though. I ended up making enough off that car to buy a rough E30 M3, repair it and sell that for over $20k. This was before the value went insane on them. Went to Walmart to find a $25 Roblox card. They didn't. Then I went to a retro game store. They still didn't, but they had GoldenEye 007 of N64. Bought it. Years ago, when I was 15, I went to a yard sale and they had a large bag full of various console and PC games. The lady running it said that she'd sell me the whole bag for $10 if I took them right then and there before her son got home. So I bought them, took them to my local game store and traded them in for $200 and store credit. Went to AA hoping to learn how to get through a day without drinking. Just one day. Sober for 8+ years now. All I had hoped and expected was for just one day. Never could have predicted the happy, sober life I have now. Playing Destiny October 2014 and a random recruited me for a raid. Paired up with one guy to defend a sync plate for the first 2 stages and we were 2 of the only 3 competent players on the team of 6. He got frustrated after a while and ditched and I followed him. He's one of my best friends now and our sons are best friends as well. Something similar happened that led to me meeting one of my best friends. Over a decade on, and it still amazes me that I met him in a low-level pug on WoW. I saw that one flipping scary Korean horror comic, and it really got to me. I had remembered that someone on DeviantArt had offered to talk about anything and everything. I figured why not, couldn't hurt me any more than what I just did to myself. I got on there, shot him a message, and did not have to wait long at all. He replied almost right away, and we talked, and talked, and talked. For months we talked on there, then Facebook, then on Skype, then I asked him to date me. He had apparently been planning on doing the same, but in person. I'm from CA, he's from OK. 5 years later, and we have a beautiful 2-year-old, and we still talk and talk and talk, absolutely no regrets. I dated this very clingy guy for a very short period of time. He showed up at my work one day because I wasn't texting him back enough. He storms in while I'm talking to a customer and causes a scene. My manager has to kick him out of the store. Later on I ask my manager for advice as to how to break up with this guy cause he was clearly unfit for a relationship and I'd venture to say unstable. My manager gives me sound advice and I dump the guy. This brought on a friendship that later blossomed into a relationship. Long story short, we've been together for over 6 years now. 2 years ago I went to a Krispy Kreme and went to pick out my own hot donuts. I ordered half dozen, and in the middle of the conveyor belt was a gargantuan screw-up donut that looked like a mutant mash of 2.5 donuts. and I excitedly asked if I could have that one. The lanky awkward teenager that worked there went on this loud and annoyed tangent about how it's company policy that mess up donuts have to be thrown out in the gigantic bin at the end of the line of all the mess ups. Some aren't cooked enough. Some are overcooked, not glazed evenly, etc. And that it's a stupid rule but he just works there. Blah blah blah. Like okay bro, no big deal, whatever. I went to go make my coffee while he finished up my order and I left with my half dozen donuts. When I started driving and hit the first stoplight, I opened up my dozen-sized donut box and I discovered my 6 perfect Krispy Kreme donuts. And then on top of that, the gargantuan chubby mutant 2.5 Krispy Kreme donut that he screamed that I couldn't have. It truly made my day. To be fair though, it did taste more bready with the consistency of a sweet dinner roll, since it was so big and not the classically light melt in your mouth donut the classic is known for. But I don't think I'll ever forget that wholesome moment. I went back a few more times sometime after that to see if I could thank him for that one time, but I never saw him again and didn't know his name to ask. I would like to think he's living his best life right now, with good health and good people in his life. That's all anyone needs. And maybe Krispy Kreme donuts every once in a while. The first time I saw Explosions in the Sky Live, I knew they were gonna be good, but holy crap that show was incredible. Turns out post-rock mixes well with psilocybin. Went to a show looking to smash. Ended up in a hot tub with the person I had been looking for at every party since we became FB friends 2 years prior but had never run into them. We're getting married next year. I married a kind and wonderful man. 7 years in, she tells me that she is a trans woman. Her transition has taken the most wonderful person I know and made her happier, more fun, and she's like a 20/10 hotness. I came looking for copper, but dang my wife is freaking platinum. I'm happy to hear this. My husband has been questioning his gender identity and is finally starting therapy for it. When I was in recovery, there was a girl at a smaller gathering of people who had recovered who talked about things she didn't like about the program, because they brought up previous issues she had being forced into a cult as a kid. Everything from the religious undertones to being in church basements really spooked her, and she talked about how she wasn't getting much support for dealing with her feelings. How people were essentially telling her to get over it or straight up insulting her commitment to her sobriety. I was extremely irritated by the fact that she didn't have any support, especially when as soon as she was done someone went off about how it worked for them and she needed to get over herself. I was infuriated, so I spoke up and reaffirmed that of course she was going to feel spooked by everything about our recovery program. She had had horrific experiences, better worded, and defended everything she said. Afterwards we got to talking and invited her to coffee because I could tell she was feeling attacked and not very supported. We became good friends. 2-ish years later I relapsed and it was extremely bad. I couldn't stop drinking. I was on the brink of losing everything, and I was in the middle of a suicide attempt when she texted me again out of the blue. I had isolated myself from everyone for months at that point, and asked me how I was. I told her what I was doing and she said she would call 911 and send them to my house if I didn't. I did. Who knew when I asked her to coffee she'd end up playing a role in me staying alive. TLDR asked a girl to coffee and now I'm still alive. IDK if this counts, but I moved into a house about 7 months ago. I knew nobody in the neighborhood for that long. Literally Saturday I decided to go up to these 2 girls who complimented my dog and now I have like an entire network of people to socialize with. Because I said hi to somebody. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Was unemployed for months and single for years. Took a temporary job I was overqualified for. Boss liked my work and offered me a better role. I took it. Met a cute, kind colleague almost right away who is now my spouse. My life went from crappy, lonely and depressing state to I have everything I've ever dreamed of and more state in a span of 3 months. In 2008, I joined a video game stream on a stream and made a lot of online friends during my freshman year of college. I was bored chatting with another friend and they introduced me to the channel because the owner was showing off his ferret. I stuck around for something fun to do when I had downtime. One of the guys I met on there was super sweet and I liked him, but he lived in Ohio 700 miles away from me. We decided to try long distance dating and we were together for the better part of the next 8 years. He finally moved to be with me in 2016 and we've now been married for 3.5 years. He is my best friend and the best thing to ever happen to me. I reluctantly went to a bar in order to grab a beer with a co-worker to farewell her, and ended fricking a friend of hers. I feel like that has been my experience with the last several jobs I have taken. I was working on software and was offered a position at a civil engineering firm, but I didn't know anything about civil, so I didn't want to take it. I decided to give it a shot and push myself and ended up working at that company for 7 years. I kept getting offered a position at another company doing estimating. Again, I resisted until I finally relented and took the position thinking, it's better than nothing. I ended up working there around 6 to almost 7 years. That job got me a position at my current company, which I also didn't think I should move to since I felt that I lacked knowledge and experience. I became one of the most productive members of the team and now I'm being called by another company where I might get a sizable raise again to switch jobs. I am again having reservations about changing jobs, but at this point I think I should just take it and stop having so many doubts. I didn't think I would have surpassed my financial goals before turning 40, but I'm there now. Worked at a car factory. There was a birthday party during lunch and a guy from another area came over to join in. I had been doing side photography and video work for weddings for a couple years. At some point he showed someone his photography work and that struck up a conversation about photography. He liked my work and I liked his. Within 2 years of meeting we went into business together, and within the first 2 years of starting our business we quit our day jobs. I have been blessed with a brotherly friendship and 10 years in business together so far. I would say that was a double gold moment. In 2017 I went out by myself one night to go see Dunkirk in theaters. The movie kept me on edge the entire run through, and I was feeling pretty shaken and scared by the end of it. When I got out of the theater I was shocked to see it was already dark outside, and having just watched a movie that freaked me out on top of being a single woman, I was too scared to wait for my bus ride in the dark for an hour or two. I decided to speed walk to a nearby Chinese restaurant to grab something to eat, calm me down, and take up some time while I waited for my bus. When I was on my bus ride later that night, the thought occurred to me the food was actually really good and I wanted to go back some time. Over the years I ended up going there with my friends and family countless times, had my first drink in that restaurant when I hit 21. Became really good friends with the manager, dated one of the employees, got Christmas gifts for the entire staff every year, and worked there as a waitress last summer when I was going through a really rough time. 2 weeks ago I visited the place again since I hadn't been able to visit for a while due to COVID. But when I walked up to the building it was boarded up and had a new paint job. I called the manager and he explained he had to sell the restaurant because of course, he couldn't keep the place going under COVID restrictions. I cried and cried walking to my bus that day thinking of all the experiences I'd had there over the years. Rest in peace Red Mermaid Bistro. You really shaped my late teens and early 20s and held a lot of great memories. When someone I liked used an Attack on Titan reference. It's an anime, so I started watching it and now it is my favorite show. You fool. I started with Attack on Titan and now I've watched hundreds of anime while also indoctrinating a few others by accident. That stuff is crack. Decided to join the college theater program in order to combat my absolute fear of public speaking improv. The group is now where most of my best friends are, and I discovered I absolutely love acting, and have a fair bit of talent for it. Working a summer job for the town highway department, we had to empty the trash along Main Street. No big deal. We are rolling up to the last set of cans and there's a huge reel in the middle of the road that looks like irrigation pipe. I ran around the front of the truck and nearly fell over trying to pick it up. Ended up with a 64-pound reel of copper cable. Went looking for trash but found copper. Nice little payday that week. I took a picture of a sign for a dry cleaners that said drop your pants here and you will receive quick attention. Scanned it and sent to friends. Months later I found it only Consumption Junction website. I still have the original picture. I was okay-ish friends with a guy in my class. I knew of him because my ex cheated on me with his ex. One day, I opened my stupid mouth and make a comment about how weird it was we got cheated on at the same time because how else do you bond, right? Well, turns out he didn't know. Later at lunch he thanks me and said he had suspicions and was happy to have closure. Just got married to him last month. So a couple weeks ago I was cleaning out my room because I was tired of it being cluttered. I go under my bed and see a large red box. I'd received it as a gift from my grandma 3 or 4 years ago. I vaguely remembered putting some notebooks and things inside, but I wasn't sure what all was in there. A little backstory. I've been working on a fantasy novel for 6.5 years now and gone through 5 or 6 drafts on it. I've written upwards of 300,000 words over that period and I've been improving all the way. So I opened the box. There's some fancy paper, an old sketchbook I never filled up, a couple dusty pencils and my very first creative story I ever wrote. I'd almost forgotten about it. And by the gods, was it terrible. Plot, I don't know her, but man, it just took me back to flip through it. I was talking to a very attractive blonde woman at an airport bar. She had to catch her flight and after she left, the guy sitting next to me offered me a job. 2 years later, still have the job and it's the best one I've ever had. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.